Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 893 for the 16th of November 2025. Richard Saunders coming to you from let's look out of the Skeptic Zone window. A few clouds in the sky, but a nice looking day here in Sydney, Australia. Coming up on this week's show, psychics. Oh, psychics, mediums. Medium psychics. Not large psychics. Not small psychics, but medium psychics. Susan Gerbic reports on her latest investigations into people who either think they have special magical powers or know damn well they don't, and call themselves psychics. And included is an Australian psychic, a guy who goes by the handle of David the Medium. David the Medium. And Susan has come to cast serious doubt on David the Medium. Why? You'll find out when you listen to the report coming up at the top of the show. And David the Medium is simply the latest in a long, long line of these people who stand up in front of a live audience and seemingly get messages from the dead. And people wonder why we are skeptical. Following that, it's Maynard spooky action. Maynard at Skeptics in the pub. Just the other week here in Sydney, Australia, what a successful night that was. And Maynard runs around with his microphone and asks people what form of alternative medicine would they like to see gone, banished from society. And speaking of Skeptics in the pub, and you'll hear about this during Maynard's report, next month at Skeptics in the pub here in Sydney, it'll be a live podcast of this show, The Skeptic Zone, and the Why Smart Women podcast. The Why Smart Women Zone, we're calling it. Annie McCubbin and myself will be hosting an evening of live podcasts. You can be in the audience and heckle us or cheer or clap or do whatever you want to do. And we'll have some special guests to have a little bit of a panel discussion. Should be a lot of fun. You can find out more about that at the links in this week's show notes, or just turn up at the Occidental Hotel in Wynyard, Sydney, Australia. And that hotel is in York Street, just near Wynyard Station. However, getting back to today's show, we're going to run off with another trip to the archives, the digital newspaper archives in the Trove segment, and we'll be looking at Orgone Energy, which we covered. Now, was it last week or the week before? Let me have a look through my Skeptic Zone notes. Yes, it was 2 weeks ago in my segment called Orgone Not Gone, and there's a version of that segment I've written for the Australian Skeptics website at skeptics.com.au. And I'm very pleased to say our new reporter, Kate Thomas, is contributing to that website as well. Anyway, yes, more investigations, or shall I say review of historical matters concerning the hilarious energy known as Orgone Energy in the Trove segment. Now let me look at my notes I put aside here for each episode, and my notes tell me that, speaking of our new reporter Kate Thomas, the other day she filmed with Dr. Karl Kruszelnicki. Isn't that fantastic? For his vodcast, the Shirtload of Science. That should be coming up very soon. When that's available, I'll certainly mention that and link it in that particular week's show notes. Congratulations, Kate. And isn't Dr. Karl a great man to work with? I've enjoyed working with Dr. Karl for many, many years. Also, my notes tell me that Maynard, our crazy reporter Maynard, or cub reporter, he likes to call himself, is going to be having his annual Maynard's Christmas special. And you can find out more details at maynard.com.au, but that will be on Saturday, the 6th of December at 8:15, and that's, Sydney time. But the best thing to do is to go to maynard.com.au to look at the details for that, and what a blast we had filming that special a little while ago. Finally, my notes here, and you can find out more at skepticzone.tv about this one. Our good friend Susie Wiles in New Zealand, who has been a strong advocate of science and reason. She's a microbiologist and science communicator. She needs your help. She has a massive legal bill to pay for defending science and reason in New Zealand when it came to the COVID years. She has suffered harassment, all for just defending common sense and good health. You can find out more. Again, there's a link in this week's show, but I hope to have Susie on the show in the very, very near future. We're going to line up something as soon as we can. But anyway, now it's time for me to run downstairs and have some brie. Some brie cheese on toast. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
I think we need to think. Here's Susan Gerbic.
And joining me now on the line on the video chat, all the way from beautiful Salinas, California, it's none other than Susan Gerbic. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Richard. Hi, everybody.
Nice to see you, Susan. You've been working in the war room there. You've changed it around. You put some flowers up. Looks very nice.
Well, I just did a reading with Bob the psychic, and I didn't want to blur my background, so I left a lot of things visual so he could cold read me. Like I had a pen on that said grandma with a little heart and everything, and I had other items. I had a picture of my father, who isn't my father. It's actually this guy who was in Quatermass and in Doctor Who.
Oh, funny.
But Mark had a signed photo of him, and I left it out.
Funny.
So that the guy would be able to cold read me. And I asked him about my father, and then I turned and looked at the picture, and the guy told me all about my father and how proud he is of me. So, I heard all about my non-existent grandchildren, all three of them. So that's why the background looks like it does. And it also has a different name on my Zoom screen. So Joanne.
Are you suggesting, Susan, that this person who you had just had a reading with wasn't really using his psychic ability?
Well, I think he thinks he was. I live streamed it over to Facebook, and I asked people if they thought he believed it. He was doing tarot and mediumship, which was unusual.
Wow. I'm shocked. But the reason that it occurred to me, we haven't had a chat for a little while, and I want to hear about the latest adventures you've been having, and we'll get an update on Wikipedia too, the Guerrilla Skeptics. But you were featured on the weekend just here in Australia in the Sydney Morning Herald, the Courier, I think it was, up in Brisbane, and the Age newspaper in Melbourne. 3 big circulating newspapers, a full page about Susan Gerbic. It was quite something.
I was really impressed. I mean, I had no idea that it would be that big. He was interesting to work with. The guy was very interesting to work with.
Now, this is a journalist by the name of Peter Fitzsimons. People in Australia will know that name. He was a former rugby union player, a very famous man, but a journalist for many, many years. And he has been, for a very long time, critical of people like John Edward, and we'll get to him in a second. In fact, let me play a short clip of Peter Fitzsimons many years ago on a morning television program expressing his skepticism.
Talking to dead people. I said, talking to dead people. That's his shtick. It is extraordinarily successful. It's been a huge winner on American television and television over here. And what you do is you get 4,000 people in a venue and you go, I can feel a W. Somebody's got a W. And somebody says, that'll be my mother, Wendy. And then you go in and you start to talk about Wendy. And that is essentially what the show is about. I wish to record my extreme scepticism that this is dinkum. I don't know why people part with good money. I know this guy has made millions of dollars, in my humble view, basically harnessing the grief and gullibility of people, and I want it stopped. Thank you.
Oh, Fitzy.
Well, don't you agree?
How do you want it stopped?
Well, I'm amazed that this goes on, and I want people like you of good opinion to speak out and say, this must be stopped, and this is a complete nonsense.
So, he makes no bones about the fact that he thinks that John Edward is a complete fake and a fraud. And the news item, and I have it here in front of me, is published in the newspapers on the weekend, calling out the grief vampires, how psychic mediums ply a moral trade. And it is, congratulations, there's a huge picture of you. I'm just showing you up to the screen now, and you can see a big picture of you, a little picture of John Edward. That's very symbolic, isn't it? A little picture of John Edward. And you talk about your investigations and what he does, and you both of you make no bones about the fact that you call him out as a fake.
Yeah, absolutely. But when he approached me, he told me that he wanted to talk about John Edward, and I was like, this is old news. Yeah. I mean, what do you want me to say? Everything that needs to be said about John Edward has been said, and South Park called him out as the biggest douche in the universe. I just think it's not important to be talking about John Edward anymore and his methods. It's at this point, what else can I say or do when there's so much other to be done in the world of psychic mediumships? Yeah. And he's not, it's not John Edward. It is not the psychics these days that is perpetuating it. It's not like they're giving us great information and they're so accurate. That's a bunch of hooey. I mean, the people who are keeping these people in business are the media themselves, celebrities that support this, and influencers who are mainly female, who are talking about how accurate their psychic reading was, or, normalizing psychic readings. And then women who want to be like those people, who are influenced by them, they're going to psychic mediums. Well, the point is that there's a lot of harm going on in this. And they say, the media, they absolutely willfully are looking the other way and saying that these mediums are helping people. Well, I have news for you. This is not help to be making up stories. Now
the one that you've dealt with before, the seatbelt psychic, he is
Thomas John.
Thomas John. Now, I've been noticing he's been doing a lot of live TikToking lately.
Yeah, he's really only on TikTok these days. We've got him off of a lot of the other places. He's having nothing but trouble. Watching him is really interesting because he's had 2 TV shows and he's had a gig in Vegas. And now, after all the attention that we have given him, the Gorilla Sticks, we have made it so he isn't even able to take PayPal anymore. But this guy is, he's run over to TikTok, which is about it. And you're watching his career implode, but it's not because he's a hot reading grief vampire. Part of the reason that he's not doing so well is because people are paying for readings and then he's not showing up for them, and then he's canceling them, and then weeks can go by, and then weeks can go by after that. And some people are rescheduled for a year or more.
Wow.
It's ridiculous, but so he's got bad business practices. So that's part of the reason why his business is failing. So the one we're going to be profiling this upcoming Thanksgiving is I'm also watching his career fade, and it's very slow, but we're seeing more and more signs that he's starting to struggle. And that makes me so happy. So I think we can have an impact on these people if we stay focused and really focus on what we can do to help their careers ebb.
I guess what I was trying to say before is when the media approached me some years ago, and I did an awful lot of work for nothing, they were under the impression that within a week we could just turn over some big sting and finish the career of a certain, of a psychic. They wanted the story. They were inspired what you did. And when I found one for them, and I said, well, this person I know does hot reading, they wouldn't touch it because that person happened to be on the same television network as the story. The true story. I won't go into the details, that's so frustrating. And so my policy now is if I'm approached like that, I say, well, okay, my fee is $500 an hour. If you're really that desperate.
I tell you, we've got a new one that's operating in Sydney. His name is David the Medium.
Oh,
really original name.
Yeah, he's I think he's Melbourne based.
Well, he's hot reading. He was I have a video up on my channel where he's at the Sydney Opera House, and I made a video of him reading this woman in the audience who turns out to be an influencer, and we went right to her Instagram page and saw what he said to her right there on her Instagram page. And we know we can follow the trail because when he posted the clip, she wrote right underneath that clip, "Oh, that was so wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing my mom through. I had so many questions." And then the medium answers her saying, "Oh, thank you for being there. That was so wonderful. You were there." And then we can go right to her Instagram page and see the post. He's hot reading. It's so obvious. And yet he's at the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah.
What the heck, people? What in the world are you doing?
Thousands of people sincerely believe it's real, and they'll go and they'll sell tickets. And when David the Medium his time is up, there'll be 3 more people to replace him over the years. Yeah. So it's like a treadmill. It's the never ending. I mean, I've known, and I have files, and you've got a copy of my files of dozens of mediums over the years who have come and gone. They're all doing the same shtick.
Yeah, there's only two real acts: cold reading and hot reading. And sometimes it blends between them. But the problem is that these people who are getting readings are motivated to get that reading, and they're willing to overlook all the mistakes. They're willing to make concessions and make excuses for the psychic medium. And it's so sad. And people don't understand that. The people who are getting readings are not getting recordings of their readings. They're just remembering it. And they're in such an emotional state, they're hearing it wrong.
And they don't want it spoiled at the end by people like you and me saying, well, here's how it really works. But let's move on to another topic. Let's have an update on the Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia. What can you tell me now? How are the statistics looking?
But we are at 207,289,496 views of the nearly 2,300 articles we've written. So we're still doing well. My editors are just not active. And I can't fault them because they're all volunteers.
Yeah, of course.
We're turning out an article or 2 a month. That's not much. So I'm trying to do my share and do every week.
But Susan, listeners can still join Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia and become wiki editors, can't they?
Absolutely. I'm all for that. I'm not busy at all training people. But yeah, please join. I mean, you got to come to Facebook, and you need to message me on Facebook Messenger, open an account, and we'll get you started. Training takes about 4 months. But like I said, there's so much work to be done. We've got over 2,000 Wikipedia articles. I mean, some people aren't writing Wikipedia articles. They're just maintaining Wikipedia. I can see them going in and keeping vandalism off or updating things. They're making small edits. So we're having huge progress. So that 207 million views are just for the articles we've written, not for the edits we make all the time, every day. Those are just small little things. We can't measure that. So they're making huge improvements. And Ross Coulthart, oh my gosh, he does not like me at all. I mean, he put out a video where he was going on about the Guerrilla Skeptics, and he doesn't want to name us because he thinks that we get sexual pleasure from being associated with the Guerrilla Skeptics. And then he says in the interview that he thinks that it's not the Guerrilla Skeptics after all. It's actually the intelligence agency that has, or the FBI, or I don't even know which one it is, that is running this and who's hiding disclosure, UFO disclosure. That's who's responsible. That's why they don't have disclosure, is because of the Guerrilla Skeptics and the government, whichever government he's thinking, I don't know. And that is the reason why we have no evidence of alien beings, even though Ross Coulthart himself says Isn't he the guy who says he knows where a UFO is buried
what
under a
his
building or
his
something?
shtick is, and it can't last forever, is if what I've been told is true, or I spoke to someone the other day who told me, or sources are telling me, the whistleblower, and it's like, this is why we call him Ross any day now, Coulthard, or the what's the other one, the little Ross that cried UFO. It's
Oh, I haven't heard those. Those are great.
but it's true.
They're calling me out now. I mean, they're doing videos and interviews talking about me.
It's getting old, and I guess people like Ross Coulthard are simply making hay while the sun shines, while they've still got the limelight and they've still got at least some attention. It'll peter out one day and somebody else will take his place. Well, Susan, your work is never done. Anyway, congratulations on having a prominent story in the Australian press. We're very pleased about that. It's ironic because when you were here a few years back, I remember we tried to get you on local television and we didn't have any people come back. Next time, I think we'll go directly to Peter Fitzsimons.
Oh, I'd love that. I cannot wait to get back over to Australia. Boy, howdy. Invite me over, you guys.
Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia in Salinas, California. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
This is Susan Gerbic from Psychics Explained. That's the YouTube channel where we discuss and analyze in great depth all those people who say that they can speak to the dead, all those readings, how they look like they're actually communicating with people. Why do people fall for this? There's a reason. It's much more complicated than you would think. Come to my channel, watch our videos. We would love to have you become part of our conversation. Just visit us on YouTube at Psychics Explained or Psychic Sex Planed on YouTube.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, we're here at Skeptics in the pub at the Occidental Hotel in, we're in Kent Street, aren't we?
York Street.
York Street. Well, it's one. Look, I know I've been banned from most of these streets, so I have to walk very quickly when I come in.
It's just near Kent Street.
It's a big night for the Skeptics, and Richard's trying to set up a question. I ask people there, what's the main woo that annoys them or they think is the most egregious? There's a good word, egregious. It makes me sound slightly like I maybe went to a tertiary institution.
Yeah, well, if someone was to ask me, the woo I'd like to get rid of out of society would be probably chiropractic, I think, because that's the one that most people think is legitimate, followed by homeopathy, because that's just nonsense on stilts.
Is the reason people think it's legitimate because in the US you can be a doctor and and have a degree?
Yeah, it's... they like to call themselves doctors, which is, for the rest of the population is quite misleading. No, because it really doesn't do anything. They just make a lot of money out of making your joints go crunch and crack and pop. But so saying, what they do is they can help people because of the loosening muscles and massage, right?
Oh, okay.
But all the theories behind it about all the interconnective energies and stuff is nonsense.
So as usual, it's one of those alternative therapies that's really good for you. You haven't got much wrong with you.
Yeah, sort of like homeopathy, I guess. And on the big screen...
Yeah, we're watching this here. I thought it was a very bad episode of Beyond 2000, but no, it's worse than that. Eh?
This is, on the big screen, we have a show that was 2004 on the ABC television here in Australia. It won the Ben Spoon Award. It was called Second Opinion. And every week they just have an uncritical free kick for woo practitioners, and we're looking at a kinesiologist, or I should say an applied kinesiologist.
Got to say, for a ABC show, the good use of ambient lighting there. Apart from the studio link there we're watching now, there's not a lot of lighting used when they go out into the studios and things like that.
So this woman, Diploma Health Sciences, Learning Enhancement, Acupuncture, Kinesiology Association, and registered nurse. So that's a disappointing thing.
Well, yes, I'm not going to say anything there because we might get sued about the whole thing. So people coming along tonight, and we've got Kate, the latest contributor to this very show. She's going to be talking about woo in general, or what?
Yeah, her talk is staying healthy despite social media.
Now, I understand she's a pharmacist, but she doesn't own her own pharmacy, does she?
No, she you can ask her that, actually. She also works in palliative care.
Yeah. Oh, because that means that she doesn't own her own pharmacy, so if she's doing work somewhere, she has to put up with pharmacies that stock stuff that's not standard.
Yeah, I mean, that's part and parcel, I'm afraid. But I have to go and greet some guests walking in.
Off you go, Richard. Richard's going to greet them with his secret handshake, whatever that is. I think he does it with his foot. Look, I have been asking people what alternative medicine or woo practice they find the most egregious, because that's a big word. It really annoys you when doctors stray off the path.
Yes, it kind of gives the impression that it legitimises all these pseudosciences and people. I mean, you're supposed to trust your GP. What can you do?
And what one is the most common? Is it, do they cross over with acupuncture, or do they cross over with even homeopathy? What's the ones you've noticed?
I would say mainly acupuncture. I don't remember any homeopaths or also MDs.
Yeah, that'd be a hard fit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, so I guess regulation's what's needed for that kind of thing, or at least looking into it.
That's a good idea. Who regulates it? The AMA or whatever?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Look, we're asking people about egregious alternative medicine practices, and in the veterinary world, there's certainly no shortage of them by the sound of it.
No, there isn't. There's plenty of alternative therapies in veterinary medicine. My favourite, non-favourite one is homeopathy. People still love homeopathy. There's still plenty of it on the shelves in the pharmacies. There are homeopathic vets that will treat your animals homeopathically. And it's not whether the animal gets better or not, it's whether the owner interprets the animal getting better.
I was about to say that, because they can't write down or tell you, look, this stuff tastes horrible. They can't say that. But so the owner goes, oh, he's not doing that thing he was doing, although they may be still doing that.
I'm sure that he's walking a little bit easier now, so I think he's a little bit less nervous now. He had I'm trying to think of the different ones now.
But as we mentioned earlier, it is ineffective and therefore safe as well, isn't it?
It's very, very safe. Water is very safe for all my pets.
I have a question. Are homeopathic vets as qualified as homeopaths?
They don't have to do any extra courses or extra degrees.
Vets,
they are vets.
Oh, they're actual vets.
They're actual vets. They're very wordy vets. They tend to put a lot of words in there to say just a few things.
So they're vets that really, really wanted to be English students.
So they're an intuitive vet.
Yes, they can probably talk to animals too.
I would never go to an intuitive accountant.
Well, there is some intuition in vet, but it's very much earned by experience. So my hands are very intuitive because I've been doing it for 30 years.
And you can see a cranky cat coming a mile away, can't you?
Yes, but there's a reason for that. I've had previous experience, and I've often had previous experience with the cat or the dog. And I've had very much previous experience with my hands doing these things. So that's why I have intuition. That's where the intuition comes from.
Just a word with the veterinary degree. Humans are all humans, but as a vet, you could be expected to treat a cat, a dog, or a mouse, and they're all a bit different there.
And snakes and lizards.
Yeah. So does it take longer to get a veterinary degree, or do you have to specialise early?
No, we have to specialise by experience. So most of the GPs are very well experienced. So the GPs get their experience on the floor.
So what's your favourite animal to work on? What's the one you know?
I'm a dog person.
Okay. And what's the most... Look, I know all inbred dogs are kind of difficult, but what's the ones that are the most difficult?
It's not all about inbreeding. Some of the inbreeding ones
if they're really pure breed, sometimes they can be,
The ones that are difficult are the more aggressive ones, so the Rottweilers or often the German Shepherds, because they're very fearful, things like that.
Have you ever treated a Newfoundland hound, those things that are like half the size of a house? They must have some sort of problem because they're a huge dog.
Yes, all the big dogs, all the dogs that are too big have very many bone bone problems and things like that. So they often get very early bone cancers and things like that. So, and hip problems, often they have hip replacements by the time they're a few years old. So.
What about it comes to behavioural stuff? Can you ever stop a dachshund from barking? Is that ever going to happen in the history of humanity?
We've tried with chemicals. We've tried with anti-barking chemicals, anti-barking collars. I have a dog that I have not yet dissuaded from barking. I use a citronella smell, but he's getting very good at turning his nose to the side as he barks so that the spray goes straight up beside him. So dogs are not silly.
Well, an intuitive veterinarian might say you're not doing a very good job there.
No, I'm clearly not. I've clearly still got a long way to go. So.
It's Sue Urachi talking to across the table with Maynard at Skeptics in the Pub.
Look, I was talking to a whole bunch of people who are learning pharmacy at Sydney Uni at the moment and people who have been pharmacists for many years there about their various alternative medicines that they find the most egregious. As a practising GP, what do you find the most egregious currently?
I think the most egregious is any sort of product that purports to treat cancer, because then they're really picking out the most vulnerable people and taking advantage of that vulnerability.
We certainly have a number of laws against that, but they have a way of subtly getting around it, don't they?
Yes, that's true. And in fact, if you see a lot of sites, particularly with naturopaths, they actually trade secrets in how to get away with providing under-the-table false information.
Because even if there was a cure for cancer, cancer is a whole range of things, from a basal cell carcinoma to all sorts of internal things that can happen to you, and they're not really the same.
That's exactly the point, Maynard. A very point well made, that anything that cures basal cell carcinoma won't cure the esophageal cancer or the uterine cancer. So the very idea that every type of cancer from all of the different tissues in the body would respond in the same way is just simplistic and wrong.
So, and do you bump into it much in your GP practice at the moment? I know you do a lot of online stuff, but you have people going, I've got a bottle of saffron here or something like that. Does that happen?
Well, I actually do emergency medicine, so I'm not doing day-to-day care.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that when people have something really wrong, they go for real medicine.
Isn't that interesting? And I told the story earlier on that I was one of the investigators at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival, which we call Mind, Body, Wallet. And a teenage girl fainted in front of all the different therapists, but they all went looking for an actual doctor to assess her.
And do you think she was just having a bit of a low blood pressure moment or something like that? I guess you didn't see her for very long, but what was your immediate thought?
I don't think there was anything seriously wrong with her. I think she was hot and she'd been standing up for a while and she just keeled over. So, in a sense, because I was fairly pragmatic about it, I was able to make less of a fuss about it and get her back up on her feet quickly.
Yes, that's. I was actually look. There's the wild yam root cream, which is supposed to be for promote good female hormones. Is that the short story of it?
That's what a lot of people are claiming, and it's very interesting.
Or balance them or something.
Yes, and there's the proposal that women are somehow hormonally imbalanced or unbalanced.
And I was asking you, what's the male equivalent? Do they have they must have a herbal Viagra or something, but do they have something to balance the male hormones anywhere along the line that's herbal?
Well, that's an interesting question, because a lot of men are prescribed supplementary testosterone, but not from plant sources. They're actually happy to take pharmaceutical testosterone because they know it works.
But you can't just be prescribing that willy-nilly, because you've got to know what you're balancing, haven't you? It's not like there's your cream, see you later. It's like, no, we'll do a blood test and see how this goes in a week or two, I imagine.
That's exactly right, but there is a fringe of dodgy providers who will prescribe to people who want it.
And you can't just go get barreling that into your system, isn't there? Because there are side effects.
Exactly, there are measured harms from doing that.
Do you really want to be a teenager again, guys? Remember what that was like?
Not only being a teenager, but crashing your car all over again.
Right, yes, it does promote a bit of aggression, doesn't it?
It does promote aggression and risk-taking.
I've seen a bit of that in gyms from some guys who are very well built.
Exactly that. So they're not the most gentle of teenagers.
Yes. So just be careful is what this GP's telling you.
That's exactly it. Use your brain.
That's the thing. Look, and we are polling people about what is their most egregious woo or alternative medicine, and what is getting your goat tonight, sir?
The continued sale of colloidal silver on the market in Australia.
Is that just available over the counter?
Yes, as far as I know, it's available over the counter. It's sold by naturopaths, even I think some health food stores and alternative health clinics.
Now, silver does have an antibacterial effect to it, but if you drink, it's like, the dose of it, if you drink too much, you'll turn out looking a bit silver in the face, won't you?
That's right. If people take it for a prolonged period of time, it can cause a condition known as Irregular, where basically the silver particles will build up in your mucous membranes and skin, and in the extreme cases, you'll turn like this purpley blue colour or greyish blue, and there is no cure for it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't disappear out of your system over time?
Well, it appears that if you have enough of it for a long enough time, it'll be trapped there.
Wow, okay. But has it got any proper medicinal use?
I believe it was one time in the distant past, possibly like over a century ago, once considered a treatment, but I believe it was quickly replaced by antibiotics once they became available. And because of the negative effects of continued use, I think it's considered to be just most charitably an obsolete treatment.
What about topically? Could you use it topically? You might not have that absorption problem.
Oh, no, it's topically it's used. I think you can buy bandages and Band-Aids which have silver films on them, and I think those have proven to help stop infections getting in.
So I think it's just one of the gaps in the legislation that sort of fell through because of its ye olde timey use.
I'm not sure what the legislative situation is, but I assume there must be some loophole, given that I still see it around, and I'm surprised that people haven't been scared off by these photos of people with Irregular that you can easily find on the internet. Silver and other metals like copper are antibacterial because of the oligodynamic effect. So that is a known scientific effect where bacteria are poisoned when they land on a metallic surface. And that's interestingly also why copper door handles are very popular, brass door handles, and why most coins in most countries have copper in them, because that helps disinfect the coins because they're touched by so many fingers. So that is legitimate.
So next month at Skeptics in the Pub.
Quiet, please, in the back there.
Peanut gallery back there. This is Annie McCubbin. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Say hello, Annie.
Hello, Annie. Hello. Hello.
Annie McCubbin has a podcast called Why Smart Women.
I do.
What's this all about?
It's about why really smart women with pretty, incisive intellects still make terrible decisions when it comes to taking care of their health and, what they wear and who they choose to spend their lives with. That's what it's about.
Ooh. So, and I have a podcast called the Skeptic Zone podcast, which has been going for almost 18 years, I think.
It's just scary.
It's just scary. Mm-hmm. So next month, here at Skeptics in the Pub, we're confining our podcasts. It's called the Why Smart Women Zone.
Yep.
We'll be up here doing a live show with special guests, including Kate Thomas.
Yay, Kate. Suirachi,
and other skeptics.
Jessica. Yes, she didn't know about that, but yes.
Jessica back there.
Yes.
So that's something to put in your calendars. Tell your friends. If you're not on the meetup group for Skeptics in the Pub, please join. It's a good way to keep in touch with what's going on. First Thursday in December, come back for the Why Smart Women Zone live podcast.
Everyone that is here tonight is compelled to turn up. Yes, please. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Time once again to go back to the digital archives from around the world no matter where they're hiding in the TROVE Archives, or really just the archives of any digitised newspaper searchable for our enjoyment. Now, a couple of weeks ago on the show, you might remember, we did a segment on so-called Orgone Energy, the magical, mythical, made-up, pretend, non-existent, fictitious, where's my thesaurus, imaginary energy, or force, or whatever, invented by one Wilhelm Reich last century, around the 1930s. People still used the claims of this fairy dust to sell products to this very day, including Orgone pyramids, which are very nice-looking things. Would make a nice paperweight, I suppose, I don't know, or a nice ornament on your mantelpiece. But they're supposed to give you some sort of protection against harmful negative energy, whereas all they do is protect your wallet from a little bit of money that's left it. Nevertheless, let's go through some newspapers from around the world to find more references to Orgone Energy. So let's start in the state of Maine in the United States in 1977. In December on the 28th. So some stories to wind up the year of 1977 in the Bangor Daily News. Orgone still generating interest. A story by Bruce Hertz. Ripley, and I guess Ripley is a place, though the majority of Dr. Wilhelm Reich papers, journals, notebooks and correspondence are hidden from researchers and the public alike, interest in the development of Orgone Energy continues unabated. And remember, this was nearly 50 years ago. Reich, a world-famous psychotherapist, established his home and laboratory on a large tract of land in Rangeley, and Rangeley is in Maine, or could be Rangeley, locals will know, at an estate called Orgone, Orgonon, Orgonon, or, well, anyway. In 1940, Reich claimed to have discovered a life energy, a bioenergy, that in living matter was bound and in the atmosphere was in a free state. The bioenergy he called Orgone, and constructed Orgone energy accumulators to concentrate the force. The box-like devices had alternate layers of organic matter, such as cotton, and inorganic material like steel wool. The outside layer was usually cellotex or plywood, and the innermost galvanized iron. Reich rented and sold the boxes and smaller versions to raise funds for his research projects. He claimed that Orgone energy could cure everything from cuts to cancer. Reich was jailed in March 1957 for defying a federal court order to not ship the accumulators across state lines. The Federal Drug Administration challenged Reich's claims. Reich refused to defend himself, and the FDA had the accumulators banned and destroyed. Reich died in federal prison. Undoubtedly, that will probably be, in some people's minds, a conspiracy theory. These things obviously worked. Big Pharma didn't want you to know, blah, 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 blah. We've heard it all before. Reich's daughter, Dr. Eva Reich, formerly of Hancock and presently on a worldwide lecture tour, has asked the Maine Superior Court for an interpretation of her father's will. The trustee of the Wilhelm Reich Trust Fund, Mary Boyd Higgins of Forest Hills, New York, has maintained that the psychiatrist's papers are to remain sealed for 50 years. Ooh. 50 years from when, one wonders. Dr. Eva Reich contends that such an interpretation is too narrow and does not allow for the type of orgonomic research that her father would have encouraged. People throughout the world are building Orgone energy accumulators, mostly for therapeutic applications. There are physicians who prescribe Orgone energy for various ills. A publication called the Journal of Orgone of Ansonia Station, New York, has a large circulation. And in the hamlet of Ripley, Maine, a brass polisher named Neil Cabber says Orgone Energy can produce electricity and preserve food. That would be handy. By placing a 2,000 microfarad condenser under two cardboard and steel wool pyramids 6 inches high, there's those little pyramids. Cabber is able to produce 25 microamps for half an hour measured by a multimeter. When the same simple connection is made outside the Orgone Energy accumulators, the energy is not transferred. He says this shows that Orgone Energy, a force in the atmosphere, can be collected and used in the form of electricity. If he can get the money, Cabber hopes to construct a large Orgone Energy pyramid 12 by 12 feet at the base and 9 feet high to produce enough electricity to run a small motor or charge storage batteries. Could you imagine our society dotted with pyramids everywhere just to collect this energy to make electricity? I must admit it's not a bad thought, but Orgone Energy, he said, can be used to preserve food. He placed a runk of stew meat under the pyramid for 3 weeks, while another piece of meat sat in the atmosphere. The Orgone exposed meat, he said, was dehydrated but unspoiled. The other piece of meat rotted and was covered by mould. Proof positive. Cabber says he will concentrate his efforts on finding the ideal material to use in the accumulator and the ideal shape, stating that fiberglass and steel wool are too bulky. Cabber said he is thinking of using iron or steel foil with cardboard or thin rubber. While being fairly convinced that the pyramid is the ideal shape for an accumulator, Cabber said he would like to try ellipses and ovals as experimental alternatives. He does not like the rectangular shapes used by Reich because the subject or object inside has to get close to the walls. He would also like to see the effects of magnetism on Orgone Energy. So would I. He believes such a combination will create a stronger energy field. The Orgone refrigerator, he said, could be a boon to people not wishing to use expensive electricity to store their food. If he could obtain a grant of $7,800, he feels he could successfully complete his experiments in a year. And that was 48 years ago. I wonder how he did. I guess if that was a viable prospect, again, we would be seeing Orgone pyramids everywhere. Or maybe I'm just part of the conspiracy. Now we turn to the pages of the Sydney Morning Herald. In the year 1987, in February on the 19th, Holden's Brock fallout over energy box. And of course this refers to something I mentioned the other week, that the famous racing car driver who since he died about 10 years ago, he in the day, so the late 80s, he was trying to promote an energy polarizer for vehicles based on Orgone Energy, which did nothing. And this is a story by David Robinson. The motor racing star Peter Brock was ordered to drop his controversial energy polarizer device by Holden's yesterday. The order came the same day that the Australian Skeptic Society, a group of scientists who investigate and seek to debunk pseudoscientific and paranormal claims, started an investigation into it and the claims the 8-time Bathurst winner makes for it. And Bathurst is a city to the west of Sydney, and there is a famous car race there every year. Holden's gave Brock, 42, until the end of the week to remove the device from cars it has supplied to him to modify, saying that unless he did so, it would withdraw support for his HDT Special Vehicles Company, which employs 60 people, and the Mobile Holden Dealer Team Group A race team. Yesterday's developments puts Brock's future on the line and demoralised his MDH vehicle company staff. Brock was in Tasmania yesterday and unavailable for comment. The Skeptic Society decided to look into the energy polarizer after hearing news reports about it.
This one sounds right up our street,
the president, Mr. Barry Williams, said.
If Peter Brock believes his device does all the things it claims it does, we would like to put those claims to the test.
The controversy about the energy polarizer and the influence its inventor, the Melbourne chiropractor Dr. Eric Dowker, has had on Brock has been simmering for 18 months. Well, there's a little snippet of information I was not aware of all those years ago, that this energy polarizer was invented by a chiropractor. Brock is almost religious in his belief that the small metal box, $470 retail, can turn a, quote, dog of a car, end quote, into a sweet running one. The energy polarizer is a small metal box containing two opposed magnets separated by a few crystals embedded in resin. It has no electrical or other power connections and is attached to the body of a car by a single self-tapping screw. Brock claims it produces a form of energy known as Orgone Energy, unknown to current physics, that aligns the molecules of a car to make it run smoother, ride better, and generally perform more sweetly. Mr. Williams says that Orgone Energy was a hoary old chestnut promoted in the late 1930s by a former student of Sigmund Freud, Wilhelm Reich.
He was big in the US for a period, selling Orgone Energy boxes, wood and metal cabinets that people sat in, that he claimed used sexual energy to release its special power that couldn't be detected by known scientific methods, which made you feel good. He was eventually imprisoned by US authorities.
The Skeptic Society has asked an expert, Dr. Anthony Garrett, a PhD from Oxford University on scholarship in Australia, to investigate the Brock energy polarizer. In January, Holden's issued a statement saying its engineers could see, quote, no technical merit, end quote, in the device, and that it did not want to see it fitted to any of its products. The statement prompted Brock to reorganize his business so that cars built by HDT Special Vehicles, to specifications agreed to with Holden's, were sent to separate premises to have a sports pack fitted. That pack was effectively a euphemism for the energy polarizer. Brock also refused to allow Holden to fit its signature logo to the 500 Group A SS Commodore cars he built so that his MHDT racing team could qualify its Group A cars to contest the 1987 World Touring Car Championship. Holden's has since withdrawn support by refusing to assist Brock's HDT Special Vehicle Company by advertising its 400 dealers that it sees no merit in the energy polarizer and effectively telling them not to sell Brock's modified cars. Industry observers speculate that Brock will either capitulate to retain his lucrative business or walk away from Holden's by the end of the week. And in my own personal archives, I have a clip of the man himself. Here is Peter Brock talking about the energy polarizer.
Ultimately, the event that changed Peter Brock more than anything was not one of his many successes, but a failure. It was 1987 and Brock was promoting this new age device called the energy polarizer.
Makes motor vehicles work a lot better in all respects.
Peter claimed simply slipping this box of crystals and magnets under the bonnet would make a car run better and wanted to include it in the Holden Brock Commodore. General Motors slammed on the brakes.
There were many concerns, the company claims, but the one which brought the issue to a head was the energy polarizer. Holden says it had no choice but to sever the relationship.
Well, I was pretty naive, and I just sort of guess I thought, oh, well, I know this is so, therefore the rest of the world must know it's so. And I just tried to impose my will upon others, I suppose, which is always a great mistake to make. There's a certain level of arrogance in doing that.
You still believe you were right, though, don't you?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, you know when you're onto something, and, that particular principle is now used very successfully in a number of appliances which people buy, use around their homes, such as water purifiers and things like that. But, that was 10 years ago, and, well, you know what they say about pioneers. They got eaten by the natives.
And here's a short item from a newspaper called Irregular. Let's see, the year is 2006, the month is June, Wednesday the 28th. And where's this newspaper from? Serving the Western Mountains of Maine, where the kids grow straight and tall and the women are all good looking. Okay, not sure what this newspaper's all about. When is it? 2006. Very interesting. Be that as it may, here we have a story. Reich Legacy, topic of conference. Ringelli, the legacy of Wilhelm Reich. New scholarships, projects and directions will be the subject of the 2006 summer conference at the Wilhelm Reich Museum's Conference Centre on Dodge Pond Road, July 17 to 21. The project will focus on current work and works in progress here in America and in Europe. Kavaris, MD of Germany and Greece, author of the recent book, quote, Healing with Orgone Energy, end quote, will discuss, quote, the effects of the orgone accumulator on burns, sports injuries, skeletal systems and cancer, end quote. How did he retain his medical degree is a mystery. Physicians Ron Mayer, D.O., Director of the University of Michigan's Injury Research Center, and Connie Hutsteiner, M.D., psychiatrist and orgone therapist in Boston, will present, quote, a proposed clinical study to test the effectiveness of orgone blankets in the treatment of burns, end quote. Orgone blankets? These are serious grown-up people. James Strick, PhD, Professor of History of Science, will lecture on, quote, Reich's bion experiments, their historic context and significance in the development of early diagnosis of cancer, end quote. It just goes to remind us that no matter how many degrees somebody has or what their status is or position, they can still be completely and utterly wrong. Bridget Joller, Assistant Curator of the Freud Museum in Austria, will talk about the, quote, 2007 Reich exhibition at the Jewish Museum in Vienna, end quote. For more conference information, other speakers, full schedule, activities, visit www.wilhelmreichmuseum.org. Let's have a look. The conference fee is $375 for the week. For the week. Oh, that's not too bad. $75 per day. What do I mean that's not too bad? It was a rubbish conference. One scholarship is still available. To apply for the scholarship or to register for the conference, call us at 864-3443 or send an email to wreich@rangeley.org or rangeley.org. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. I wonder if that website is still there. Shall we have a look? Yes. All right, I will then. Wilhelm Reich Museum. And how about that? It's still here. Wilhelm Reich Museum, home, about, museum, cottage, store, social contact. Oh my goodness me. And on the front page here are various old videos of, I would imagine, the man in action with his crazy inventions. And let's have a quick look at what you can buy at the museum. The Wilhelm Reich Museum store. Selected writings, more writings, even more writings, and more writings. And let's look at the merchandise. What do we have? T-shirts. More T-shirts. And a coffee mug. Oh, well, it might be a good site worth raiding for some more information on the man himself at some stage. And, in fact, I found a reference to that museum from the Sun Journal from the 3rd of July, 1992. and the Sun Journal is from Lewiston, Maine. And the story is, Wilhelm Reich's legacy lives on at museum. Controversy surrounds scientist. And this is a story by Karen Kriorika. I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. If you're interested, the spelling is Kreworuka. I find it interesting to do reading some newspapers around the world because you often find place names or surnames that are, I don't want to say unusual, but unusual to you. In other words, you haven't seen them before and you're not always sure how to pronounce them. Anyway, how did a man who at age 25 was Sigmund Freud's brilliant student, I'm sure that should read most, end up dead in a US penitentiary 35 years later? The imprisonment of Dr. Wilhelm Reich in the spring of 1957 for criminal contempt of court is only one of the controversies kept alive between the fieldstone walls of the Wilhelm Reich Museum. The former Orgone Energy Observatory, located just north of the town, opened Wednesday for its annual summer tours. The guided tours through Reich's well-preserved laboratory, study and library cost $3 for adults and are free for children under 12. The museum is open through August from 1 to 5 p.m., Tuesday through Sunday. Visitors to the Austrian-born scientist's workplace will learn that Reich's whole life was controversial. From his study of and writings about the function of the orgasm to his claim that he had discovered a free-floating cosmic energy that charges organic material and is found in all living matter. He called that Orgone Energy and named his estate here, a former 400-hectare sheep farm, Orgone. I hope that's how it's said. Orgone is where Reich studied orgone with the aid of time-lapse photography, a method he helped pioneer. And this is where he invented and built the famous orgone accumulators that eventually led to his imprisonment in a federal penitentiary in Lewisburg, PA, where he died of heart failure at the age of 60. At the museum, Reich's instruments and machines, some enigmatic and strange, are on display along with his painstakingly recorded research, including photographs of mice that were used in orgone accumulator experiments and glass orgone collection tubes. Reich claimed to have stopped the growth of tumours in mice by placing them in the accumulators. Or maybe they just died of boredom. He claimed to have photographed orgone energy, which in a museum photograph glows blue and intense in a large glass laboratory tube. Now, this article is a little lengthy, and you can read that for yourself. It's free to read. In this case, if you go to Google Newspapers and just run a search on Orgone Energy, you will see in the list the headline, Wilhelm Reich's legacy lives on at museum, but I will read a few more paragraphs. The boxes are used to accumulate orgone energy, which Reich believed after decades of study existed in living organisms and as free-floating cosmic energy that could be absorbed through the skin. Some of the accumulators he built are small enough for mice. Others are large enough for one person to sit inside. Reich and many other doctors believe that the accumulator's outer organic material attracts atmospheric orgone and holds it, while the inner metallic surface reflects it rapidly. It goes on later to say, according to Dr. Chester Raphael, author of, quote, Some Questions and Answers About Orgone Therapy, end quote, the use of an accumulator increases, quote, the vitality of red cells in the blood. That is, its orgone energy content, end quote. Again, these are grown-up people. In 1957, doctors were prescribing accumulators for their patients sick with cancer and other so-called biopathic diseases that affect the functions of organisms. Well, there we are, just some of the references to orgone energy and Wilhelm Reich. dotted throughout the world in various newspapers. It reminds us of many things, of course, and particularly for me, it reminds us that grown-ups will believe just about anything. Orgone Energy or something else, always worth looking up in the pages of the digital archives from around the world, because when you go there and you have a look, you put in your query, your search, either Google Newspapers or the TROVE Archives at trove.nla.gov.au or many others from around the world. Well, you never know what strange energies you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast, and as ever, thank you to those people who support and contribute to the Skeptic Zone podcast at skepticzone.tv via your very kind PayPal or Patreon support. Coming up on next week's show, I hope to have the loons from Canada back, talking to, well, maybe even Susie Wiles, who I mentioned at the top of the show. I know that soon we'll be hearing an interview with Karen Bickersma from Melbourne with the Loons. We should have a Woo Watch segment for you with Kate Thomas, the Australian Skeptics newsletter written by Dee and read by Adrian Hill. And in the Trove segment, we're going to be looking at that classic bit of quackery, reflexology. Lots to look forward to, but don't forget to put in your diaries, if you're in Sydney, the 4th of December for the Why Smart Women Zone live podcast recordings. And link in the show notes, or just go to meetup.com/AUST, A-U-S-T, Skeptics, and Skeptics is spelled with a K. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation. Do the dice game now. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Rightio. Now, this is where Richard rolls a dice at the end. And thank you for listening to the end of the show. God knows it's hard enough listening to the whole show with Richard talking anyway, but we're here with the dice game. Now, how many sided dice have we got this time?
D10.
The 10-sided dice. And this is where you try and guess what's going to happen. This is where you try and guess what is going to happen and see if you can defy the odds.
Oh, that was you.
That was my knees.
My name's Sue.
Okay. Oh, Sue's arrived in the background. She's the loud one, everybody.
All right, so at the end of the podcast, we have a little Easter egg where you get to use your psychic powers to predict the roll of a die. You see, we have a D10, 10-sided die, and we will guess, we'll see who at the table has magical mystery powers. I'm going to guess a 4. Maynard, what do you guess?
I'll go with 7.
7?
And the food's arrived as well, so it's a perfect environment for recording a podcast in. Okay, so we're just going to go.
Kate, what do you predict? 7.
Oh, somebody else said 7?
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
3.
5.
8.
8. Here we go.
Here we go.
And
Richard's rolling.
And a new friend, what?
Kathy.
What number
Kathy.
out of 1 to 10 do you think the dice are going?
Pick it.
5.
Fine. Well done.
Here it comes.
Oh,
1.
so absolutely no one got it.
No one got it.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting though, that no one goes.
No one.
One more. We'll do it one more time.
Okay. Right out. See.
So,
1.
1.
She was going to go 1.
Oh, 7 again.
7.
I'm doing 3 again.
3.
I've done 8.
8.
I'll go 6.
6, and I go 2. Here we go.
Okay. He's rolling it again, and
10.
so again, no one.
No one again. I think this dice is full.
Even as far as odds go, that's unusual for that many guesses and not one right, isn't it, Richard? Shouldn't one person have got it right once?
Well, if we roll it enough times, Maynard, it would statistically it would add up. But that's enough for tonight, I think. Thank you for playing. You get a free dice. Thank you for playing. And one for you.
And that's what we call the dice game. Thank you for listening at the end of the show.